What's happening, everyone? My name is James Lynch, and in today's video, I'm going to look back on the top earners on MMA YouTube this past year, and I'm going to be using a site called Viewstats, which isn't 100% accurate. So a couple things on this. The stats that you're going to see here aren't 100% official. I've talked to some people when I've sort of mentioned these numbers in other videos. Some people have said, hey, they're giving me too much credit. I'm not making this much money. And then I've seen some people say I'm not making enough money. So just keep that in mind before we go through this. Again, this is just more of like a fun exercise to kind of look back at all the MMA YouTube channels out there. And keep in mind, they don't count donations. So, certain channels like MMA Guru do get a lot of donation money. So that's something you will not see on this list as well. And if there's any channels I missed or any honorable mentions you want to throw in there, let me know in the comments. But I did my best going through all the channels I could think of that make MMA related content, specifically MMA. And we're going to start first, coming in at number 20 at the Fighting Business. They do like documentary style YouTube content. You can see on the low end, they made anywhere from 22K to 63K a year. Very impressive there. 258,000 subscribers. Go check them out. Canadian company there. Coming in at number 19 is Full Send MMA, OG Shawnee Mack. If you've watched my MMA industry podcast, you've seen Sean on there. Really great dude. You can see the subscribers almost at 500,000. They've done a great job. Sean has, and the whole crew. You see him behind the scenes at UFC events, getting those one-on-ones and doing some really great content and questions. Again, low end 23K, high end 70K. And the reason and how I sort of determined this list was I went off who had the highest, on the high end. I sort of ranked it that way. So they got 70K. The video I showed you before got a little bit less than that. So that's why they're in the 19th spot, and so on and so on. Coming in at number 18 is Alex Volkanovski, the former featherweight champion. You can see on the high end, he's making close to 90K. On the low end, he's making 32K. 544,000 subscribers. Really good YouTube channel. He's done the cooking stuff. Just really sort of unique content that you don't really see out there with some of the other fighter channels. So I give Volk some credit here. You can see he's already talking about like this one, my dream truck. That's the type of stuff that fans want to see. And a lot of views over the last year. You got 11.8 million views more than he's typically used to. Really good stuff there from the former champ, Alex Volkanovski. Coming in at number 17 is the Ariel Helwani Show. Now, I included this on here, but keep in mind, Ariel Helwani was not posting content on his channel prior to him going on his own and leaving MMA fighting. Obviously, his stuff was on MMA fighting for a good portion of the year, and then he switched over. But if you look at his channel, and he was posting a few things on his YouTube channel, not a ton, but even then, high-end 94K, so that's 4K more than Volk, and 34K on the low end. And now obviously all of his content goes on there with Uncrowned and Yahoo. So Ariel Helwani coming in at number 17. Number 16 is Sugar Sean O'Malley. Got to do the 1 year tab. So you can see it there on the high end, 104K for the year, 37K on the low end, 930,000 subscribers. He's getting close to 1 million. And his views are down a little bit. He hasn't posted in a while. If you look at that, he hasn't posted a video in the last 12 days. I know there's some talk about him maybe taking a step back from that stuff just to focus on fighting. So we'll see what 2025 brings. But again, O'Malley, pretty good for 2024. Coming in after this is Daniel Cormier. We know his channel, really good interviews. He on the low end, 36K. 101K on the high end. Actually, I think he should have been before O'Malley, but that's okay. And you can see there, 369,000 subscribers. Really good stuff there from Cormier. I'll be honest, I don't watch a ton of Cormier stuff, but a lot of people like him, and you can see that from the stats we're showing right here. Coming in after that is Michael Bisping's podcast. So there's the Michael Bisping podcast, the Believe You Me podcast, and then there's Michael Bisping's channel. So I included both on this list because they are earning a ton, which credit to Bisping. I mean, again, very, very high earner here. On the low end, 44K, high end, 122K. So very, very interesting. You see the interview there with Yuri. He does some great interviews on his channel. So check out the Michael Bisping podcast, 213,000 subscribers, doing quite well. Another podcast makes this list, the Jackson podcast. Look at this, low end 41K, high end 116K. They really blew up this year. They have a really good studio. They have really good guests that they get on the show. Some really viral content you see all over the social media platforms. So Jackson podcast, really big earner here this year on the high end, 116K. Coming in after this is MMA Fighting, and their numbers have obviously dipped a little bit since Ariel Helwani and the MMA Hour left, but they're still overall for the year at 143K. They also go to events, so they're again one of the news companies that's on this list as well. So they come in 143K, low end 44K, and just keep in mind as well, like they don't rely solely on YouTube, right? They have the website, they have sponsors, they have all this, or advertisers, I should say, not sponsors. So, MMA Fighting, still 1.7 million views. A big part of that is Ariel Helwani, obviously, with 2 separate stints at MMA Fighting. And we'll see what the future holds. Obviously, big news, like I mentioned there, Ariel Helwani leaving. And seems like they're just doing sort of the event stuff and obviously the interviews with like, David Martin, Guillermo Cruz, and Mike Heck. So that's MMA fighting right there. Where are we at now on this list? We're almost at the top 10. So coming in at number 11 is freestyle bender Israel Adesanya, low end 63K, high end 177K. Yeah, really good production, good thumbnails. Adesanya and his team do a really, really good job of this. I love the, reaction videos that he does when he's watching fights. Really good stuff from Izzy. 1.1 million subscribers. Very impressive there for Adesanya. One of the fighters that has really done a good job with the YouTube game. So credit to Adesanya coming in at number 11. Okay, now we're going to get into the top 10 here, guys. Coming in at number 10 is Michael Bisping. We talked about him earlier. He's got the podcast. He's making good money with that. How about his own channel? 209K. And keep in mind, Bisping also gets paid by the UFC to do commentary. He does some work for BT, or I guess it's TNT Sports now. Bisping's doing quite well. Good for him. Honestly, a lot of, people when they end their careers in any sort of sport, it's hard to find that, next little bit. And he's, Bisping's got a lot of really good, a lot of good content, a lot of good interviews. The thumbnails are great too. And look, 677,000 subscribers. He'll be at 1 million here pretty soon. He's doing a really good job with his content. Okay, coming in at number 9 is MMA Junkie. That's right. I was a bit surprised by this too, that MMA Junkie is actually, viewing better or making more money, I should say, than MMA Fighting. But part of that is I feel like Junkie does a bit more live content, at least since Ariel's not done his show anymore. But yeah, that's a little bit surprising. So low end 85K, high end 236K. Again, they go to pretty much every event. So a lot of the numbers are based off that, and they're at pretty much every event, right? Like that's actually one advantage that Junkie has that Fighting doesn't, is that like they'll go to the Apex cards, whereas Fighting doesn't always go to those, because MMA Fighting doesn't have anyone based in Las Vegas, right? So Junkie does. So that's why they're getting all the good content there. So again, 236K on the high end, 382,000 subscribers. Coming in at, what number are we on right now? I'm losing track. Coming in at number 8, someone I've had on my channel, Jesse on Fire. 425,000 subscribers, 109K on the low end, 303K on the high end. Listen, you might not be the biggest fan of Jesse's stuff with some of the stuff he has in there, and he also mixes in MMA and politics as well too. But he's doing well. I mean, 303K for the year, very impressive for Jesse on Fire. And again, 82 million views overall, very impressive on his end. Okay, coming in at number, what is this? Sorry, number 7. I'm gonna try and keep track of this. Number 7, no surprises here, Nina Drama. So for the year, 107K on the low end, 305K on the high end here. 1.3 million subscribers. Now, obviously with Nina, she gets the exclusive interviews through the UFC. I believe she also gets paid by the UFC. She gets her travel covered. So she really has a big advantage compared to other people. Saying that though, you got to give Nina credit. She does different interviews than everyone else. It's just her style. It's more of like the goofy, like, lighthearted, content, and it works. She's found her lane. She's ran with it. And she's done very well with it. And that's, I believe she got Personality of the Year at the MMA Awards. So Nina Drama coming in at number 7. I actually thought she would be higher on this list. But again, keep in mind, she's getting paid by the UFC and she's got her channel as well. If she did more live stuff, I'd be curious to see if the numbers were even higher. But for now, Nina coming in very, very well. 107K on the low end, 305K on the high end. All right, let's get to Full Mount MMA, one of the news channels out there. I might have missed some other news channels, by the way, but this was one that always stands out on my feed. Look at this, 110K on the low end, 306K on the high end. And I say it all the time on here, they don't own any of this content. They just put it together and I guess they kind of make it their own because they do some voiceovers and stuff. But, it is what it is. I've talked about this on the channel before. I have an issue with people that don't own their content, but 516,000 subscribers. And again, 291 million views overall. Very impressive. Listen, if you're someone that wants to follow the news, they do a very good job with that because they put everything in one spot. The only downside is you're seeing other people with their interviews and other content that's basically taken from them and they're using it and kind of benefiting from it. But that's the way YouTube is. Nothing you can do about that. Okay. Chael Sonnen coming in our, well, I guess you can kind of see the order here. Maybe I should hide this on the screen here. I'm going to see if I can move this up a little bit. One sec. Well, I guess you can already see it anyways. Doesn't really matter. But yeah, let's see if I can. There we go. Anyways, yeah, Chael Sonnen, 111K on the low end, 308K on the high end here. Chael Sonnen, always, he was ahead of the game before anyone. Like, I can't remember any fighters that had retired or left the sport and did the YouTube thing sooner than Chael did. Maybe Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, but Chael Sonnen for sure on the high end here. Yeah, 308K, 111K there, 1.3 million subscribers, 782 million views. I mean, you see it all the time. This stuff's in the news. Chael Sonnen coming in at the number 4 spot, I think, right? Yeah, number 4. Okay, number 3. This again, not super surprised by this, but the Mac Life. So the Mac Life out of all the MMA outlets is number 1. 141K on the low end, 310K on the high end. And they haven't posted in 16 days, but there hasn't been any MMA or boxing really to cover there. 1.5 million subscribers. So think about it. Mac Life was only created, I can't remember how many years ago. But I mean, they're already at 1.5K. They're almost surpassing MMA Fighting for subscribers, and their, revenue's a lot higher too. So credit to Oscar Willis. He's the guy behind the Mac Life. Really, really good job there. Huge views for the Mac Life coming in the number 1 spot for, actually, that's not true. Not number 1 spot of all the outlets. We have one more we got to talk about here, but the Mac Life, very impressive there. Coming in at number 3 is obviously Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, 133K on the low end, 372K on the high end. He is absolutely killing it. And again, getting good interviews. Look at this Islam exclusive, 272K in 18 hours. I mean, it's incredible. So, and good for him, man. Demetrius Johnson didn't get a lot of respect when he was fighting in the UFC, and now he's had this really great career post UFC. It's awesome to see for him. Good for Demetrius Johnson, closing in on 1 million subscribers, by the way, 970K, 198 million views overall. Very impressive there for Demetrius Johnson, and very good year for him there. As you can see, 300. I mean, if he's getting anywhere close to 200 to 300K for just doing a YouTube channel, that's very impressive. So good for him. Okay, coming in at number 2. I actually thought he'd be number 1, but he's number 2. I went and looked at the numbers on, and again, he actually, let me take that back. Actually, he probably is number 1 if you add up the donations. We're going to talk about who came in at number 1 in a second here, but still 418K for his channel. 150K so the minimum he's making 150K a year. Like, that's a very good living for anyone. So credit to Guru. Again, you might not, people can say what they want about his content. He's found his niche. He's ran with it. I remember when Guru was at, not that many subscribers, and he has blown up. He's in the, he's in the news all the time with all types of takes and everything. He's got 123,000 subscribers this past year alone. 56 million, almost 57 million views for the year. His subscribers are at 269,000, and his total views are at 114 million. You got to give Guru his flowers. He's figured it out. He is one of the top content creators in this. Actually, he is the top content creator. What am I talking about? Because here's who's number 1. It's ESPN MMA. I was a bit surprised. I thought, and now keep in mind, they get obviously like exclusive streams and all this different stuff as well that you don't see with, that other channels don't have access to. Not to mention, it's ESPN is backing this as well, so they get exclusive stuff. But yeah, 505K on the high end, 180K on the low end, 2.2 million subscribers. It's where everyone watches the UFC. I didn't include the UFC channel, by the way, because I mean, obviously it's the UFC company. I was just wanted to do ones that were outside of it. So ESPN coming in. Actually, you know what? While we're here, we might as well check and see what the UFC is making. I bet they're making more than everyone. Let me just double check here while we're here. So UFC this last year, how much did they make? Okay, they made 3.6 million. Okay, there's a huge difference there. Just for argument's sake, I don't really want to count the UFC because obviously it's its own channel and whatever, but look at this. 3.6 million for the year, 1.3 million on the low end. That's incredible. But I mean, we're talking every event, every post-fight interview, all that stuff. It's pretty incredible to see that. So that's where the ceiling is the UFC. Maybe we'll see Guru make $1 million. I think he's certainly on his way to doing that as well. Okay, wanted to do a couple of honorable, actually, before we do the honorable mentions, I wanted to mention that for some reason, the data for these two channels got kind of messed up with Viewstats. I'm not sure why, but I wanted to mention them anyways. The first one was Luke Thomas. Luke obviously gets a lot of great views. You can see there, got 25,000 subs this past year. And remember, he also was transitioning. I mean, he was always doing stuff on his channel, but remember like the whole morning combat stuff. Now pretty much everything's on his channel. So he did gain 25K subs, but then the revenue is a bit messed up. So I didn't really include him in here, but Luke's another one that's, love him or hate him, Luke is producing some really good views on his content. And it's doing quite well. So yeah, Luke, I just wanted to mention, but again, I don't know how much he's earning because there's something messed up with Viewstats. And then the other one I wanted to mention is an honorable mention, or not an honorable mention, but one that also got messed up was MMA On Point. Again, same thing. Looks like they got 50,000 subscribers this past year. They're also at 1 million. And their revenue's all messed up. I don't know how much they're making there, but that kind of got messed up there. So just wanted to mention those because I know people are going to be like, what about these channels? And then a couple honorable mentions I wanted to throw in here, just because I know people are going to ask me about them. First one is Thick Boy, which is Brendan Schaub's channel, which didn't make a ton this year, 24K, considering Schaub and all his resources. So yeah, just wanted to mention that. They didn't make the cut. Obviously, they weren't even close to the one that came in at number 20 here. Another one I wanted to mention, the Schmo. Now, keep in mind, the Schmo is not doing as much content as he's normally used to, because he has that radio show now he's doing with ESPN. So 75 subs. He's at 363,000 subscribers. That's still higher than most. And his revenue is a little bit lower, but still, I mean, 40K is like a side hustle. That's very good for the Schmo. But yeah, we haven't seen a ton. He's been doing all types of different stuff and not posting as consistently. So that's why these numbers are a little bit low too. And also Schmo hasn't been going to as many UFC events too as well. So just keep that in mind when you're talking about that. The Overdogs podcast, it's a podcast that's blown up a bit this year. They get an honorable mention. Look at this, 15K to 41K. They just missed this list barely, but they continue to get really good guests on their channel. And again, they're at 48,000 subscribers. So they'll be at 100K in no time. 21 million views overall. They gained about 27,000 subs this year. And yeah, another podcast that was sort of newer on the scene. This channel I'm not super familiar with, but they came up in my feed. Paul Stryker ENG. I haven't actually seen his stuff, but he's making anywhere from 20 to 66K a year. So that's pretty impressive. So wanted to mention him as well. He came up. And then of course, Lucas Tracy, we got to mention him, but remember Lucas took like a month or two off. So his revenue is a little bit lower here, but still 13K to 43K, very impressive. 119,000 subscribers, 20 million views, 56,000 subscribers this past year. Very impressive there. And even his last video that he just did 24,000 views. So Lucas Tracy, even though he's kind of taken a bit of a step back, still making a decent amount of money. And last but not least, weighing in with Josh Thompson and John McCarthy. They're from 17 to 49K. So again, they get an honorable mention, but did not crack the top 20 on this list. You can see their subscribers are at 123,000. Okay, so I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Did any of these surprise you? And I'll say it again, these stats aren't 100% accurate, but it's just something fun that we can all talk about and discuss as far as what's going on in the MMA YouTube space. If you guys like this type of content, I do enjoy kind of paying attention to what's going on in the YouTube space. So just let me know. And also let me know if there's any channels that I missed on here that you're curious, like where they're fitting in on the Viewstats tab as well. Again, I have a few other videos on this channel as well talking about the Viewstats stuff. So just wanted to do sort of an outline of everything that's going on in MMA YouTube this past year. We'll see if any new channels emerge or any channels that I mentioned here that have a big surge in 2025. My name is James Lynch. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. It really helps out my channel big time. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.